Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Special. This is going to be episode 44 of our Sunday series, and we are trying a first today. Hopefully, everything goes off without a hitch. We've got not one but two stellar guests. You guys have heard them before, but we are all in one virtual room to have a awesome chat about our beloved JRPGs. So, in order, we'll just keep it simple, guys. Jake, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hey James, thanks for having me back on. Glad we can kind of get to do this roundtable. Should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, I agree. And Jordan is with us as well. How you doing, buddy?
Great, thanks for having me again.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're not going to do anything too serious. We've got a couple kind of topics in mind. Uh, we obviously are huge Trails fans, but we're going to kind of table that towards the end of the discussion and give people a chance to, I don't know, maybe stop the podcast because there'll be spoilers involved. But first up, guys, why don't we just talk about what we're kind of playing and see if there's anything that we can kind of piggyback on each other. Jake, what are you into that triangle strategy? Did I hear that?
Yeah, I'm playing that now. I just finished up East 8, which,
Oh yes.
by the way, great soundtrack.
Oh yes.
It brings a lot of Trails feelings back when you listen to that soundtrack, so that might be a good option for a future Sunday special.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just finished up that, and then I'm playing Triangle Strategy. So
And
That's
you,
yeah. I mean that triangle strategy. I've heard that it's actually really good with the soundtrack with that too. Is that true?
the music is very good. Yes, the story is really good. It's very Game of Thrones esque
mm,
as far as the political storylines go. It's much more family friendly than Game of Thrones, although there are some gruesome moments in Triangle Strategy as well. But the story is very good.
Cool.
that's awesome. I was hoping maybe somebody would check that out, and I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I figured you would
Yeah,
dig
I
that as
mean,
well.
gameplay is pretty much typical tactic style gameplay. There's not as much character customization as I would have hoped, but it's you still learn new stuff and progress at a pretty decent pace along as you play through the story, so it never really gets stale, at least not for me. There's a lot of replay value because the path diverges in many different chapters, and it'll take you to different places. You recruit different characters based on the choices you make. The replay value is really high. If you're not good with tactical strategy games, the easy mode is an option. I am playing it on easy. So I was on normal for a while, but after losing a couple of battles that you spend 20 to 30 minutes doing,
Mm.
I don't have time to keep beating my head against the wall.
Yeah.
So I had to switch it to easy.
That's welcome news because this game has been intriguing to me, but as well noted, I cannot play those types of games normally. So, hey,
Yeah.
easy mode. I can maybe pick this up in a few months then.
There's also a very easy mode. So
Oh,
if
even
easy
better.
mode, yeah. So
Wow.
if easy mode gets to be too hard for you, I mean, I'm not. I'm like you. I'm not that great at the strategy tactical games.
Me
Um,
neither. Yeah.
but the story is really good. So I did not want to give up on it because I lost a couple of fights. So I just dropped the difficulty down one level and I can continue on with no problem.
That's fantastic news. So I will definitely check that out here. I'm sure it'll be on sale come holidays or something. I can get a physical copy then.
Probably will. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's good. Yes, definitely Yeez. So I'm the last one then has not played Yeez 8. So once I get that done, then we can all talk about that as well.
But let's be honest. You're never gonna play it. And we've been bothering you about it. And
You
Dalton's been bothering you about it, and now Jake's played it, and I don't know. This
so
week
just
has
everybody just gangs up on me about Yeez. I don't but no, I've said it's at the very tippy top of the backlog now. So there's a good chance it's actually next.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jake, you thought the music was awesome too, right?
Yeah, I mean, when certain tracks would play, it made me feel like I was back in playing Trails of Cold Steel.
I can see that.
I
Yeah, for
mean,
sure. It's just, yeah, awesome.
yeah, Falcom's music is it's great. Do a
Yeah.
great job.
Do we know if it's actually the same composer or not?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, that'd be we might have to do a Google search. But so Jordan, what are you on right now?
I just started Persona 3 FES a little while ago. I'm back on the PS2. I went back a little bit. Just actually finished Bug Fables before this, and I really enjoyed that on the Switch. Is actually a throwback to, I think, Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door. It really was very close to that, I think. But Persona 3, I guess I didn't know what to expect. I am enjoying it so far. I can see how it's going to be good, but there's some quality of life issues that I don't know. I don't know if I can keep going with. Like, for example, you can't save. Just when you can't save, I can't save during the middle of the day until it's like the end of the day.
Yeah.
Or if you're like exploring, like, if you played Persona 5, like kind of like Mementos, there's Tartarus, like the dungeon you explore, and you can't save in there unless, and there's only certain checkpoints on different floors of the dungeon you can return to, otherwise you have to do them again. And I don't know, like the other day I was getting really tired, like just at night, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
I was like, I really need to save right now. And I was like, and now it's like making me stay up for like another 20 minutes when I'm like playing the game with my eyes closed, you know what I mean? So
That stinks. I
yeah,
mean,
so I don't know.
the PS2 assumed that you had like 3 or 4 hours to do nothing else but play for a while.
Yeah.
And it's I definitely encouraged you to play that one, but it's hard to go back and play games in order and not have some sort of quality of life unimprovement, so to speak, playing it in reverse. But I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like, and I don't like how you have to talk, like, in order to change equipment, you have to talk to your party members, like, individually. Like, I think that's kind of,
I forgot about that.
that's also kind of annoying. But I can tell, like, the characters are probably going to be good, and there's going to be a lot of interesting things that happen in the story. So I'll probably keep hanging with it. It'll probably suck me in more. And I've got the retro tink, upscaler, to make the PS2 look really good, on it like smooths it out a lot on big TV.
Nice.
So I'll probably keep going with a little while, but I guess if it starts interfering with life things too much, or if I can't stay awake, I might have to leave it for a while. I don't know.
Does it still have random encounters?
No, you can see the enemies and you can sneak up on them,
Okay.
and yeah, so that's okay. The main reason I was playing it now is because that Persona 4 Arena Ultimax came out, and then I was just about to like play it, and then I started reading that like, oh, like there's major spoilers for Persona 3 in it, like, and things that happen like at the end, and I was like, oh my god, okay, well I guess I have to play Persona 3 now if I want to play this game. So I don't know.
That's weird that a fighting game would have spoilers for a JRPG.
I know. Well, I think it's supposed to continue the story of Persona 4, but kind of crosses over with the world of Persona 3, apparently. So apparently there's major spoilers in it. So
I guess I figured you had 20 years to play the game, so you should have.
well, I missed it, so here I am.
Yeah, I mean that was my first one, back in the day on PS3 or PS2. So it's my memories of it are definitely more rosy, and they made so many improvements with 4 and then Golden and on to 5 and Royal. So that would be, yeah. I forgot about some of those things. I'm sorry, my bad.
Well, you're good. I mean, Jake, have you played some of the Persona games or not, or where are you at with those?
The first Persona game I played was Golden, for the Vita for Persona
Okay.
4.
And
That was of course that was an excellent game.
it's awesome.
And then I played Persona 5 Royal, and I actually got to experience the third semester.
We don't talk about that here, Jake.
Yeah,
I love
know.
I know it happened to you. Yeah.
Then I have not played Strikers, so just 4 and 5.
Okay. I missed. Well, I actually own Royal, but I played Persona 5 first before Royal ever came out, and I just haven't been able to bring myself, like, because they don't let you start at the third semester. So I don't know. I have so many other games on my backlog. I don't want to put 100 hours in to try to just get to the third semester. It sounds annoying. Maybe I'll just
I
watch
hear
it on
you.
YouTube or something. I don't know.
That's a valid point. I mean, if you don't want to play through the whole game again, if you don't have that itch,
No, yeah.
don't sign up for 120 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if I
If
make
you
the wrong decision, apparently, I guess I'll end up just playing the same game again and not miss the
Nobody
first
would be
one.
that stupid to make that.
yeah, be careful with that one. I hate to, I'd hate to have to hear you that you sank 80 hours into it, only to find out you couldn't play the final 40.
No,
I'd be so mad.
luckily it's still a fantastic game, even without the added and there's still added things, as you go along in that game. But it definitely didn't get that huge payoff of it. No.
Yeah, and I would have felt I was feeling your frustration, James, when I first found out it happened. I was feeling a lot of really frustrated for you.
If it was a short game, it would have been different.
For sure, yeah.
If it wasn't for hearing what happened to you, I wouldn't have known that it was something that could have been missed. I actually looked it up to see how you can miss it and made sure I avoided picking the wrong things.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to miss it after hearing what happened to you.
Of course.
I was very grateful
You're
that
the
you paved the way.
experiment team. Yeah.
that was my goal at that point, was to make sure nobody else had to go through that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I looked that up too, though, and I didn't think, James, I didn't think you were like the only person, though. It seems like it happened to a fair number of people, actually.
I'm sure I didn't want to talk to the counselor. Who cares, right? It was kind of annoying, but oh well. What are you gonna do?
Did you like get a chance to play Strikers all yet, or is this more like you don't like that genre of game kind of mixed in there, the Muso?
Honestly, the Persona games aren't my favorite. So
Okay.
I spent well over 100 hours with Persona 5 Royal, and just to dive back into the world, I needed a break. So I haven't picked it up yet. If I find it on sale one day for cheap, I actually found Royal on sale. I mean, I got that for probably only 30-40 bucks, because it was
Awesome.
it was well after it came out before I picked it up. So
Yeah.
it'll probably be the same with Strikers.
Strikers has been on sale a couple times already, so that's definitely
Yeah.
going to happen. They pushed that one out in big numbers to where there's plenty of sell copies out there.
I also know it's more actiony.
That's
which,
complete action, yeah.
Yeah, is not my cup of tea. I mean, I'll delve into it from time to time. Obviously, East 8 was very action based.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I was gonna say that's really actiony.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they're not my favorites. But I will play them from time to time.
the payoff of Strikers is the continuation of the story of 5.
That's
So
the best part. Yeah.
it is a very much shorter game. I mean, what was it, 40 hours maybe?
For me, though, James, it was longer.
Yeah, Jordan, it's always times 2, however long it's supposed to take to beat a game.
No, I usually take my time to go through any JRPG I play. I always play it slow.
Well,
Slow.
this is a bit different. I mean, I kind of wanted to get through the action parts to get to the story, so it I put on easy mode and just got through it as quick as possible. But it was really, really a fun game.
It's got an easy mode too.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't have beat it without it. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Because it's pretty brutal on normal. Like it was not easy.
I did beat it on normal, yeah, and it wasn't a cakewalk. It was not a cakewalk.
But it's definitely something. I think it's any Persona 5 player that enjoyed it at least a little bit should want to play through it just for that much.
The story, totally worth it for the story. Even though I think when you're finished, I don't know, James, if you'd agree, when it gets towards the end, though, I think you're definitely ready to be done with that game.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I mean, if you want to add them both together, you're talking about 160 or more hours of investment into this story and world. You're ready to be done with. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, both Jake and James, I recommend. I don't know if you like this genre of game, but if you like Persona 4 a lot, which it sounds like you both do, I recommend, just even for the story continuation, playing Persona 4 Dancing All Night, though.
Is that? Are you being serious right now?
Being serious, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. Like it actually does a really good job expanding the characters and expanding the story of Persona 4. Like it really does take you back into that world, but you do have to play rhythm levels in between and stuff. But so it's up to you if you want to do that. But the story is actually really good.
All right. So is the rhythm part like the dancing at the Honeybee Inn part of remake?
kind of.
Yes,
mean,
that's a no then. That's my least favorite part of the entire game by far.
the story is really good. Like, I mean,
I'll
Jake, you
watch
said
it
you
on
loved
YouTube.
I was gonna say, sounds like a YouTube candidate to me.
I love it because I also do like rhythm games, like so I was good with it. But I mean, like if you love Persona 4, I mean, I think you should at least watch it on YouTube because the
Okay,
story is really good, actually.
that's fair. Well, it sounds like there's
Uh,
story in the Ultramax Arena too. Then
yeah, apparently it extends the story of Persona 4 more again, so that's why I was really wanted to play it. I don't really, I mean, fighting games are fine now. I don't play them very much now, but that's really why I wanted to play it, is because I wanted to get back in that universe and then see what happens more to the characters.
I had no idea there was story in I figured there was a little bit in the dancing game, but I would have never guessed in the fighting one. But I
No,
can't play those games.
in the dancing, I'm not saying it's not a little bit of story. It's actually like a story. Like this cutscenes are really long. It's mostly not you playing the levels, the rhythm levels, but it's mostly story, I would say.
That's interesting.
And Teddy says some really hilarious things in that game. I'll tell you that.
He was always good for the comedic factor.
Yeah, I mean, whether you wanted to laugh or not, sometimes he just wouldn't have any choice.
If I go and buy this dancing game, will they put Persona 4 Golden on PS4?
Uh, maybe, yeah, they might.
Uh, that's the only way I'd be willing to do it.
Yeah,
Just give us Golden. Come on.
yeah, take my money.
Yeah. Still don't understand that one.
Would you really replay the game? I mean, if it came out, would you replay it on PS4?
So I played it on PS2 the first time, then I played it on Golden with my Vita. Probably not. I mean, but there's so many people that have not played it that deserve that opportunity. That's kind of why I keep pushing for it.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Because while Vita is a great console, they're extremely hard to find now. And I mean, everybody's got a Switch or a PS4, so
I think I've said before, I play on the PlayStation TV so I can play with the PS4 control. I don't actually have a Vita, but the PlayStation TV has the guts of a Vita, so I just play on that.
I imagine that's even harder to find.
I think so. Yeah, it was like $60 when I got it, but it's cool because you can go to the PS Vita store still, and you can play all the SP games and PS Vita games like on your TV with your PS4 controllers. That's what I like about it.
That's awesome. I love that idea. I'm still very surprised that didn't catch on better.
Me too. I don't understand why people wouldn't want to play the Vita games on your TV like that. I don't get it with your PS4 controller. I don't know.
The only thing I can figure is they're trying to push that more into PS Now, and with the service merging here soon, that's going to be more of with Plus and be able to play all the old games. I figure that's where they're just going to a cloud, virtual setup instead.
Probably. I just yeah, I don't get why it didn't catch on no more either.
I
It's a
do.
shame that none of the PlayStation platforms, the handheld versions, have stuck around all that long. I mean, Switch has been around forever, and I feel like PSP was around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
The Vita, I think the lifespan kind of got cut short. I think it could have lasted a lot longer.
I agree. I love
Like,
Vita was fantastic.
I agree.
I got to experience it just late because I only play the Vita games on PSTV, so it was really kind of later that I started playing more of the Vita stuff. I mean, Jake, what are your favorite JRPGs on the Vita besides Trails? Are there any ones you really like?
Yeah, I have both Star Ocean 1 and 2. The you know I guess they would call them remasters at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I've got both of those on the Vita. Or no, that's the PSP, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the remake of 1 you could play on everything, and 2 would have been a PS1 classic, I guess.
Yeah, so those are
Yeah.
both on the PSP, so I guess that doesn't count. The Vita, I had Golden on there. I had Tales of Hearts was on
Yes.
there.
I have it.
Uh,
Haven't played it yet, but I have it.
yeah, that one's good. I wish it
Yeah.
had an English dub.
Yeah, it's weird that it doesn't.
Yeah, I think I've got. I know I've downloaded. I think every Final Fantasy from 4 through 9 on there. I've also got 10, 10, 2.
Mm-hmm.
On the
Then
Vita.
Yeah, all on the Vita. I got those. Obviously that was off the PlayStation Store.
Yeah.
But it's just it at the time it was kind of like my go-to console for any of the old school games that I wanted, which was really nice. But now it's much older, and I'm hoping the next time I go back to play one of them, the Vita still works.
It still works, yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, though, all the I can play most of those on Switch now, with the exception of Legend of Dragoon is the only one that hasn't gotten some kind of Switch treatment. Chrono Cross was one of the ones I had on there. That'll be coming out for
Coming
Switch.
out, yeah.
And 7, 8, and 9 I've got on the Switch for
Me
Final
too, yeah.
Fantasy.
Yeah. Legend of Dragoon, like when's the last time that you played that?
It's been quite a few years now, but I have played through it like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, okay.
I also played through Chrono Cross multiple times. That one I did play more recently, so I probably won't play it upon release for the remaster. I'll download it for sure, but won't play it. I probably won't play it right away. If Legend of Dragoon came out, I mean that one's been over 5 years, so I would for sure play that one.
I'd be on that. I still have my PS1 copy here, and that's the last time I
Yeah.
played it when I was in high
Mhm.
school. I don't know how you have. I don't know how you're able to replay all these games, Jake. I always hear you saying I replayed this and that. I don't know how you do it.
Oh, these are over the course of many years. So
But still, like I just haven't been able to like. There's not that many games I think that I've replayed or that I don't know. I admire that you've been able to do that because then you remember even a lot of the stories even more. I'm sure a lot more of it is cemented in your head.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't remember hardly a thing about Dragoon. It's been so long since I played the first time.
I
Me too,
that
yeah.
that was my favorite game as a kid, and nothing's topped it from a nostalgia point of view. I mean, I could pick it up and go back and play it right now if I didn't have so many other things I wanted to get to.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
I,
mean, yeah.
I was just going to say, like, I am surprised that you're not, because I know your love for Cross knows no ends, Jake. So I'm very surprised it's not like day one out in the streets, screaming out, Chrono Cross, yeah!
Yeah, I mean, it's just that I've played it so recently. I mean, it's within the last 2 years.
Right.
Wow.
Because I was trying to hold out, hoping that we would get some kind of an update, and then I figured, oh well, probably it'll never happen, so I just played through it. And then, of course, now we get one. So
That's why it's coming out because they found out you finally replayed it. And they're like, "Oh, Jake's
Mhm.
replayed it now. Now we'll come out with it."
could be, yep.
And it's not like they added anything besides the little stories, so there's not that value to play it again. Obviously, it looks a ton better, but
Yeah, one of the ones I really want to replay is Dragon Quest 11 because I've got the definitive edition now,
nice.
which I haven't played through. The first time I played through it was the base version. So, replaying something like that's got all kinds of extra content and features, that's something I'm really looking forward to.
I still have not completed. I think James was insulted when I told him this, but I didn't like the original version, but solely because it actually was because the music just drove me nuts. I think it's horrible. I actually think the soundtrack is absolutely horrible, and for me that for some reason I can't ignore it. Like that actually ruins a game for me. So I feel like I only played it for 2 hours on PS4, and now I repurchased recently. I purchased the definitive version that has the orchestra, so I'm hoping when I get because I want to give it another shot. I hope that it's a better experience.
It deserves a second chance. The orchestra is much, much better. But I mean, I enjoyed the MIDI version just fine. But it's got some fantastic. It's typical Dragon Quest. It's got some fantastic music to it. I know you judge things that way because you're a music guy. Like that's your thing. So you're going to judge it a little more harshly than probably the average gamer.
Maybe I wanted to ignore it though. I don't want to notice it. Like I didn't want it to bother me. So I felt bad that it was bothering me.
Well, if nothing else, you could go into the settings and just turn the music down so you could hear the voices.
Yeah.
And then you could play James's podcast of the Dragon Quest 8 soundtrack while you're playing through the game.
Oh, that's a good idea because that is
There you go.
that is a superior soundtrack. Yeah.
Maybe I will do that. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'll give this Symphony a chance and see how that goes. Maybe.
It's definitely better. And yeah, I mean, I loved the definitive edition of that game was much better. I think you'll like it, especially just seeing all the party members on the field at once. That adds a lot to it.
I mean, it's a good looking game and everything too. So it just
Yes.
yeah, I think the
I'm really
graphics are
looking
good.
forward to the extra feature they added where you can go back to old Dragon Quest worlds.
It's cool. Yeah.
Do you get to fight like the old Dragon Quest bosses, like Dragon Lord and Astark and all that?
I didn't play those as much as I probably should have. So I can't confirm nor deny that, but it's definitely the
Okay.
worlds and the stories. So you do see characters pop up. So I'd imagine enemies do as well.
That'll be really fun.
It's
Well, that
completely
sounds like
optional. Like there's no
yeah,
incentive to do that, and I probably should have. I was just kind of racing through it.
it sounds like a 200-hour playthrough at that point, though.
Oh my
Oh, it's
god.
huge. Like there's
Yep.
so much added to that game, and all the post stuff is still in there, and then some. So that yeah, that's a long game, but it's fun.
100 hours. I don't know. Whenever that scares me whenever I hear that.
Well, the base game, I mean, I spent over 100 hours in the base game alone. I
Yeah,
mean, I platinumed it, so I went through and like you do, Jordan. I took my time. I went through in every nook and cranny. I'm sure you could play it faster if you wanted to. That was just the base version. So then to go into the new version, with all the extra content, I think the characters have their own little side stories,
yes.
and
It's
then there's past worlds you can explore.
I enjoyed that the extra content with the characters. It was a good extra hour or two for each one.
Yeah, and you can choose to marry Jade. Finally,
Of course, best girl.
that's right.
Yeah, no spoilers. Maybe
I won't remember whatever.
no. That they painted that one from the beginning pretty obviously.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. So
Yeah. No, that is an absolutely highly recommended. All the Dragon Quests, but that was one of the top ones.
and that's why I really do want to give it another shot. I still haven't shut the door on it yet, but I just need the music to change a little bit. So
Yeah, I started replaying 8 on the 3DS not too long ago, and you forget how great that music was, though.
oh yeah,
Here's a
man.
game that could do with a Switch treatment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'll,
I'm surprised they haven't.
yeah, maybe I'll put on that soundtrack like Jake said. That's a good idea. If I need to do that.
Yep, that would work.
Yeah.
What? Not to change too much, but what? So what's the next like big game? We know Jake is going to boycott Chrono Cross apparently, but what's the next big game that you boys are looking forward to next?
Go ahead, Jake.
Well, nothing new really. I mean, the big ones will be towards the end of the year with the Crossbell coming out,
Hmm.
the new the next generation for the Pokemon games. But obviously, that's a long time out. So once I get done with Triangle Strategy, which will probably be, if not this weekend, then next weekend, I really don't know. I might try to start up the playthrough of Dragon Quest XI-S,
Okay.
but I've started that before, and something else has always popped up. East 9 is in the backlog, but
Yeah, me
like
too.
I've said, yeah, like I've said, I mean, I'm not a big action RPG fan. So since I just got done with East 8, I'm probably just going to take a break from that for a while.
Yeah.
That one's probably not going to be first up. So yeah, probably Dragon Quest XI-S, but I reserve the right to change my mind.
Well, do you? So you mean games that aren't necessarily coming out like in the future, but just games that we have in our backlog that we're going to play as next? Is that what you
Either
mean? Yeah.
both, whatever. Yeah, I mean, backlog, top of the backlog, and then like, what's that you're gonna actually put some money down on?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Ease 9 up there, I guess, because for me, I did just beat. I beat Ease 7 actually, the PSP. I played on the PlayStation TV, on the PSP version on my TV with the PS4 controller, and so I need a little bit of a break in between. But I think I'm getting ready, like after maybe Persona 3, is 9, or what else is in there? I guess I mean, yeah, the Dragon Quest 11. I'd be willing to give that probably another shot. And I guess in terms of games coming out in the future, I mean, I think Final Fantasy Remake Part 7 Remake Part 2. I mean, whenever that's going to come out, I mean, I'm still very excited about that. And probably also, I mean, the Chrono Cross. I am actually really looking forward to because I haven't played it in a really long time, so that'll be up there too.
Do we get the next Trails game or the next remake Part 2 first?
Oh,
Depends on whether or not you're talking the Crossbell release or
No, new game. Yeah,
new game. Yeah,
Hajimari. So that's fall of next year.
probably Hajimari, because we have a definitive time frame for that. I would say that one's probably going to be out before Remake Part 2.
I'd agree.
yeah. I also think that's true.
What about, have you guys looked at all at the new Final Fantasy Origins game?
Oh, I've actually heard pretty good things about it. I know people kind of seemed down on it when it was first announced or something, but I've heard it's actually pretty good. I mean, do you think you might actually try it?
You know, it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would based on the original promos, but I will not buy it for $60 on the PS4.
Right.
If when I get a PS5, if I find it on sale, I might pick it up and toss it in the backlog. But I just can't bring myself to support the direction that they're going. I'm just, oh, thank you.
I think that's why people were kind of down on it, but I've heard that it's a lot better than people expected it to be. That's what I've heard about it. I have not tried it myself. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and it probably will be. I probably would enjoy it. I don't know.
I think that's all fair. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought the graphics looked pretty cool, but other than that, there was nothing that impressed me about the gameplay, the characters, the story. Now, I think Square Enix was smart. They did those demos and they took feedback and they made some improvements, which is why some people are enjoying it. But it's certainly nothing screams, here's my $60 for a game I may or may not like.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe if it's $30 and I want to add it to my Final Fantasy collection and possibly play it, that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, I've seen some reviews, and I guess there's a job system, which is
Mhm.
kind of nice.
Yeah.
But I hear it's kind of shallow. Which isn't a big surprise considering it's an action game. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something there, maybe not. I mean, I hear it's kind of a mix of, like the gameplay that they've taken from Remake, which, if you like that, is kind of nice.
See, it doesn't look like that battle system at all. It looks like a brawler almost to me. And the one thing I'll give that does look kind of fun is I think there's multiplayer mode. So like other people could join and play the other characters in your party. That could be kind of fun in a weird sort of way, but nothing screams Final Fantasy about it.
No, I agree. Other than the jobs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did hear about the job system. I don't really, again, probably blasphemy, but I don't really like job systems all that much. It's fine, but it's not my favorite thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I could take it or
I
leave it.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's a nice idea in theory. I just think that some of them are so grindy to get, to unlock the best stuff. And then if you want to switch, not only do you lose the abilities that, you unlocked, you also have to start all over with the next one, which if you're mid to late game, that's a lot of hours that you'll have to pump into the new jobs. And you could just stick with the old ones and plow through.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's the way it usually goes. I know that there's actually jobs in Yakuza Like a Dragon too. And
Is it really?
yeah, and you actually get, but they're not at the beginning. Like you got to get your full party to get to that point. But By the time you reach that, let's say you're like at level 8 or 9 in the job class. Yeah, you got to go back to 0, and there's a huge drop off in the equipment that you can get, as well as the levels. So you take a huge hit party wise just to change a class to get back to where you were.
Yeah, that's why
It's
I
annoying.
like Bravely Default too. I think they implemented the job system really well.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, each character when they switch jobs, they had their own different animation. Each one of them put on some kind of different outfit, which was really nice. And you got to use some of those abilities that you worked so hard to get. And if you combined them with other abilities for different jobs, I mean, you could unlock some really powerful stuff.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
the second ability part of that. That was well done.
Yes.
I didn't mean to. I was only laughing a little
I
bit
know why you
because
laughed.
you know I laughed because I felt bad because I was listening to you on a previous I think episode, and then you mentioned Bravely Default. You like too, like you really loved it, and I really gave it a shot. I got I think it was like maybe like 16 to 20 hours into it. I just couldn't do it. I didn't like it. And I felt bad because I know you really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like like you said, if you're not a big fan of the jobs, I mean, that's where the meat of that game comes from. So if it doesn't work for you, then yeah, playing through it is probably going to be more of a slog than otherwise. So
Oh,
I can see
what I
where you're
couldn't
coming from.
figure out what I couldn't figure out is like maybe you can answer this, Jake. Is like I really loved the previous two games, so I was just trying to figure out what was so different about it that I didn't like. I don't know if you can pinpoint if there's something like key that's different about Bravely Default 2 compared to the other two games. I don't know.
Not that I can think of. I mean, obviously graphical wise, it's an upgrade given that it's on a more recent console, but the job system is still there. The Brave and Default system is still there. The story is, it's good. It's not one of the best. It's tropey, but that's never something that's really bothered me.
Yeah,
We know what we like with
we do.
with
Yeah.
JRPG stories, so that's something that's never really bothered me. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there was too much difference other than it's a new story to play through.
And maybe it was that I don't know. I felt like one thing I'll say when I think about it now that we're talking, I felt like Bravely Default 2 forced I feel like it forced me more to use like new jobs when I didn't want to. I think it forced me more to do that.
You get that new shiny new job, and they like, hey, you should really trade your class to this one.
Well, it felt like that to beat some of like the enemies or beat some of the bosses. They made you they made it very difficult to win unless you like change a certain classes, and I just didn't want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, there were some of the boss fights that were really challenging.
Yes. Yeah.
And it felt like a big difficulty spike. But
Yes.
as you got farther into the game and you unlocked more jobs, that difficulty spike it kind of pattered out because you could a play the fight with the most recent jobs, kind of like the way the game wants you to, or b you could use some of the more powerful abilities that you get later in the earlier job classes and
Okay.
combine those with other abilities, and you could kind of go around the fight that way too. So the farther you get into the game, the more options you unlock, the less you would feel that kind of restriction, I think.
Well, that's good to know that at least it didn't stay like that forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not to say that the fights wouldn't continue to be a challenge, because some of the boss fights were pretty tough.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I've heard.
It is really funny that you said that, Jordan, because I think we felt exactly the same way that we weren't loving the game, and we're like almost like we were going to hurt Jake's feelings by not
Yeah.
not
Because
playing
I
it
didn't
through
do
Well,
it. Yeah.
to completion. But I think it was just, and I've done this with other games before. Like I get to a point I'm not feeling it. Maybe it's just the wrong time, and you go back and revisit and see if those feelings are still there because it's a gorgeous game. I really enjoyed a lot of it. It just wasn't the right game at the right time.
yeah, and I know I talked it up a lot, but I think part of the reason that it came across that way is the context of the conversation we were having.
Mm.
Okay.
And it was brought up because what was your favorite game for that year?
Oh,
In
that's
my
right. That's what it
opinion,
was. Okay.
Yes.
yeah, and in my opinion, that it didn't have a lot of competition.
Okay.
It was
That's
a
fair.
it was a slower year.
Hmm.
Um, so that's kind of why I it was the same year as was it Arise? I
Yeah, it
think it
was
came out the same
last
year.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
beginning of the year.
yeah. I mean, Arise was fine. It's not one of my favorites. I know that's probably blasphemy to some, but
That's all right.
I mean that's why I think because I know James, you picked Arise for your game of the year, didn't you?
It was by default, basically. I
Yeah,
mean,
see, exactly. And by default means not much competition.
yeah. No, looking back on it, I probably enjoyed Ryza 2 much more, but
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
impressed with Arise, I guess, more than
Yes.
anything.
Yes. It looked great.
Yeah, but in terms, I mean, it's not even top five Tales games for me,
Right.
to be frank.
And to have it as your game of the year still, it just kind of goes to show not much competition.
No,
So
it wasn't,
for me, since I did play through the entire game of Bravely Default 2, I had it edging out Tales of Arise.
and that's fair.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was Arise. I think it's newer Tales players have just loved it to death and can't get enough. Older
Yeah.
are like, this isn't. Is this even Tales at some points? Uh, they changed so much, and not all for the better.
yeah. I
Agree.
mean, it was fine with some of the. I mean, well, we did that episode. I mean,
Yeah,
some of the changes were good, I thought, but some were questionable.
I don't know.
I
I didn't like some of the characters as much. I mean, I know
mm,
you guys talked up Dohalim and what was the knight's name? The female knight, Isara.
yeah,
It's
Kisara,
just
yeah.
by the time they came along, I'm just like, no, no, thanks. I'll stick with Rinwell and Law. I know James, you didn't really like him.
no.
Uh,
I mean, I traded Kasara for him. It was the same
yeah,
difference in a lot of ways.
I
yeah,
loved
and
Rinwell, though. Rinwell was really good.
oh
I
yeah,
Oh
always played
yeah,
this, but yeah.
Renwell was the my tank. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't like as many of the characters, especially as you got later into the game. So for me, it was like, all right, well, now I'm just playing through the story just to see what happens, and the combat is the combat, which like I said before, not my favorite.
Hmm.
Um, well, that's why Bravely Default edged it out for me. But
And that's fair. I mean, I've played both Berseria and Vesperia in the past couple years, and I enjoyed them both better.
Yeah, same. I would definitely agree with that.
for me, it's Tales of the Abyss and Tales of
Oh,
Legendia.
I mean, yeah, those are really good too. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Abyss screams for a HD remake.
Yes, it does.
I really enjoyed Legendia. I mean, the soundtrack is really good on that too.
Me too. And doesn't it seem like Legendia is kind of the black sheep of the
It
Tales
does. It
family?
gets yeah, it gets crapped on a lot
Because it was
by
It does.
terrible.
people. Yeah. It was
Oh,
not terrible.
oh.
It was a 2D. It was 2D. It was horrible.
But so were the other Tales games previous to that.
They were in 3D at least. They didn't.
Tales of Destiny?
No, I didn't say Legendia.
No, I thought you were because Jake was saying so were the other ones previous to that were 2D, right? And you like the other ones previous to that, right?
I mean, that was in the 3D era, and they went back and made a 2D plane fighter that you got to jump over people's heads like a Street Fighter. I mean, that was
That's
not.
awesome. You could suplex the huge things.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I quit that one a long time ago.
That's fair. It's just like giving you a hard time.
I understand you liked it, so that's good.
You've done yourself a disservice, my friend.
I love James in the when we were talking about Tales of Arise because it kind of tells you something about the story when even in like I think you were writing in like the outline for what we were going to talk about and you wrote aliens space like it just kind of tells you like how crazy the story got.
It went everywheres with that story. My goodness,
Sounds like they asked Nomura for help.
they
Yeah,
might
yeah, yeah.
have. It got to the end of it, and they needed some added content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love James in the when we were talking about Tales of Arise when you because it kind of tells you something about the story when even in like I think you were writing in like the outline for what we were going to talk about and you wrote aliens space like it just kind of tells you like how crazy the story got.
It
Oh, speaking of space, I forgot the games we're looking forward to. What about Xenoblade 3?
You know, that's I could not look forward to a game anymore, but I think where it's so newly announced, I don't even it doesn't pop in my head that it's actually coming soon.
I keep forgetting about it, but it really is.
Yeah, I mean September? Is that
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
it? Because we heard nothing, and then it's announced, and then it's coming out in a few months, which is your brain as a JRPG player is not prepared for that sequence. It's usually, announced, and then 5 years later we're playing it.
I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know that Jake, what's your stance on the Xenoblade stuff?
All right, so keep your pitchforks and stones.
Uh
So I have Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on the Switch.
oh.
I started it. I could not get into it. I did not like the battle system at all.
Okay,
Never tried 2. I won't try 3. It's
fair.
nice talking to the fellas.
Absolutely. You see the door over there, right? All
That's right.
right. No, I get like if you are not like all into that battle system, it'll frustrate you to no end, and it's just you're done. I get
I
it.
just felt it felt like you didn't have any control. You just kind of walked up and hoped things happen. And I mean, maybe it got better the further you got into it, but I don't know. I did not care for it.
It's
I don't know.
a
I think. Yeah, James.
I was gonna say in a weird sort of way, I compare it to FF12, where you've got
I
to
was
kind
just
of
going to say
Oh
that.
yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of got to set things up and it
Yeah.
auto battles in a way, but then you got to, initiate your skills. So no, I get that. The hands off fish is a little weird.
I was just going to say it felt like Final Fantasy 12 with the Gambit system,
Hmm.
but I think the Gambit system I liked better.
Oh, yeah,
And
you could control that much more once
yes,
you got into it.
right.
I think Xenoblade 2 though, I do think you got more control in
A
terms
lot
of
more,
setup.
a
Yeah,
lot more.
a lot more. And then just some of the intricacies of the battle system. I mean, some of those didn't open up in Xenoblade 2 until maybe 12 to 15 hours in, and it just gets really actually I won't lie, it's very complex and hard to keep track of at first, but once you get it and you really get it, it's very satisfying.
So that I played two before I played one because I didn't play, the original.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you did that.
So for me, it was hard to go back to one's
Oh
battle
yeah, it would
system.
be hard.
The story was awesome, so you wanted to play through it for that. But in my opinion, two is a superior game in every way, really.
Yeah, I agree. It is two is definitely superior.
But
I
I'm
think
at the
yeah.
same time, I'm not going to say Jay go out and play it because if you don't like one, I don't necessarily think you're going to like two.
Yeah, well, maybe if I find it on sale someday, and I'll look up some gameplay videos on YouTube to see if it, changes they made from 1 to 2 would make it more to my liking. I mean, because I have heard great things about the story. I liked the
Yeah.
story in Xenosaga.
Hmm.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
they know how to write good story. Um, so maybe I would give it a shot. Is there a connection between 1 and 2?
Very much.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
There
so
is.
would I be lost?
No,
Oh.
it's a weird sort of way they do it to
Yeah. So
where
we you wouldn't
I
be
mean,
lost.
me and Jordan have talked about like which game is first. Like,
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah.
chronological on this? Because it's weird. Like, what Xenosaga is weird. Period. But
It's weird.
you're not going to find the game on sale. You'll be like if you can find a copy at all. They did not put out a ton of them of part
Oh,
two.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't realize that.
yeah. It's I think you won't find a used copy. It's probably have to go on eBay and pay premium.
Oh,
Now you can get it digital. I've seen it on sale digitally, but if you want an actual hard copy,
yeah.
yeah.
I just played Xenoblade 1 on the Wii. That's what I have on the original Wii. And all I remember is with the final boss, I was totally under leveled and I didn't know it. And then I had to leave my Wii on overnight, and I had it on for like it took me like 4 hours total or 5 hours total to beat that boss. It's
Oh my
horrible.
lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a game that if you are under leveled, it'll let you know very quickly.
Yeah. And I thought I was done with that stuff where I'm sure you guys have all had to leave your console on at some point with something like that, like old games, But
The old
I
ones.
thought I thought I was done with that until recently with I went back and played E7, and then the final boss of that, I just didn't expect it because it was such a huge difficulty spike, and I ended up having. I think that took me about 4 hours total. I didn't realize, and it pulls the old trick on you where it's like, oh, by the way, you got to use all the party members you haven't been using this entire time, and you're not leveled up. Have fun. And then at that point, you've already beaten like one very difficult phase of the final boss, so then you don't want to go back. You know what I mean? So your party members are all split up, and you have to do that. Used all my items, and then I was stuck on the final phase of the boss for hours and hours and hours, and I don't really want to do that anymore.
No, that doesn't sound fun at all.
No, the game was really good, but that was not fun.
I don't mind that mechanic if you use your characters and you actually like them, but more than likely you're going to have a few that you haven't used since the very beginning and they suck. Yeah.
I think that's pretty cheap, like that kind of surprise where there's no warning of it at all. So you just and they haven't done that the entire game. So I hope they don't ever bring back those kinds of mechanics.
I found Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is on Amazon for $65.
Okay. Well,
It's not horrible.
no, it's not horrible. I guess what I would say is like you're not going to find it on sale per se. It's going to be full price. If you can find one, that's fantastic. I'd pay it. I did pay it, so.
Yeah, I think the one thing is you might know. I think James, you know this, but I really just don't like the spiders. I don't like the spiders, and there's too many spiders, and I just don't like it. I don't like it in Cold Steel either. I don't like the spiders.
Oh, and Xenoblade?
And Xenoblade 2 especially.
Yes, they're giant.
I don't like them.
No, and you find yourself like in that cave. Oh, the giant. That's the stuff of nightmares for you, buddy.
Yeah, it's horrible. and the ones in the Trails game that hang down from the sky, I don't like that either.
Nobody likes those. Yeah, they're just hanging from the sky. There's nothing for them to hang from, but there's
like
still
their
the
web
air.
is like attached to like a cloud or something. I don't know what that is about.
I was going to say quickly though, did you play Torna? The expansion to 2?
No, I have it in my backlog, but I didn't play it.
So we need to play that before 3, I'm guessing.
Okay.
I would guess.
We do? Okay.
I would guess so. I don't know
It's
for
like
certain.
it's like a prequel, isn't it, to 2
Yes.
though, pretty much?
Yeah, it sets all that up. I mean, let's put it this way. I want to play that. I didn't want to at the time, but
I thought you played it.
I tried to and couldn't get into it because I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for 300 hours, and I needed a break.
So let me ask you this: so Torna is a prequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which may or may not take place before Xenoblade Chronicles 1.
It's impossible to explain, but yes.
All right.
I was confused. I think other people are not as confused, but yes, it's 500 years before 2.
Is Torna a separate game, or is it like the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with extra content?
It is a separate DLC. It's got a separate cartridge even if you buy it physically. Yeah. I just bought the DLC. I got the season pass at the time, but
it's an entirely different game.
Yeah. It's actually a different play. I didn't love it as much because they did change some gameplay stuff to it.
They did. So, like, for example, all the complexities of the battle system of Xenoblade 2, are you expected to know that going in or not?
No, like it takes it down to like a buddy system, basically. Like you have 6 party members, but they act as 3, if I have to simplify it, if I recall correctly. It's kind of, because of course there's not the blades, so that whole mechanic is not in there.
Okay, I didn't know they changed stuff like that.
Yeah, you get 6 party members that you know most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, which I just want to see that dynamic and what led up to all that.
Maybe Jake, you'd be better off just watching videos of the whole story or something. I don't know.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Perhaps. I don't know. Um, so do you guys want to talk Final Fantasy games?
Sure.
We love Final Fantasy, so why not?
Uh, I had brought that article up on this show before, and Jake, like as soon as I released the podcast, he's like, "Let's talk about that." Apparently you have a beef with Japan's ordering of
No, I
Final
don't have
Fantasy
a problem.
games.
I do not have a problem with the order.
Okay,
So can you refresh everybody's memory?
I can. So according to our friends in Japan, the top 10 games in order, not surprisingly, seven's at one, six is at two, then 10, 5, 4 is number 5 on the list. Then you get the first online one, so 14 comes in at number 6, 9, 8, 11, and then 3. So that means the ones that didn't make it, and I think that's what you want to talk about more, perhaps,
Yeah,
is
I have no problem with the order, other than the fact that 8 and 9 are too low.
It
okay.
is too. I agree.
Yeah.
But more specifically, the ones that didn't make the list. So obviously, 1 and 2, much older games.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise they didn't make the
Understandable. I didn't like 2 at all, so I get that.
list. In a top 10 list where there's only 15 options,
Uh-huh.
and forgetting the MMOs, because those obviously you have to take a bit of a different approach when you go to rank them. The 3 most recent games, 12, 13, and 15, didn't make the top 10.
Yeah.
That screams, hey, something's going on here. People don't like the way you're heading in the direction of these
That's
games.
true. Yeah, that's a good point.
And they just keep going down that path.
Excellent point.
What are
That is
your
a really
guys'
good
thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. And then if you want to go look at the list even more, the last turn-based one was very well received at number 3. So what's that say? Hey, let's just make the next one all an action game, right?
Right. And I mean, I don't think, 12 wasn't my favorite. I know, James, you really loved it, but it certainly deserves a spot on the list. To me, it would be towards the middle to the bottom,
Okay.
just because, the top 5 are, there's so many great ones at the top, for me at least. You know, it was people in Japan who, they did this, I guess what was it, a poll that they
Yeah,
played Facebook or
I'm trying to get that into it. Is an online poll, 28,000 votes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm listening to this on my ride to work, and I'm just thinking to myself, so the ones they left off the list, other than the first 2, which are really, really old and, were so basic, the ones they left off the list are the most recent games they've put out.
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't that tell you something?
Yeah. It should.
Yeah, it is, and I couldn't agree more.
It won't, but it should.
Yeah, and I was so glad because the day I listened to it it was either later that day or the next day. You would ask me to come back on for one of the next Sunday specials. But as soon as you asked me, I'm like, please bookmark this list because I want to talk about it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of it other than it's the same frustration that we've felt for many, many years of I like 12, but even it was not the traditional. Having replayed 10 very recently and seeing how great that game is, it's sad, really.
Yeah, and I always wonder if it's just purists like us who, just don't like the direction they're going, and that might make us the minority. But here that they polled however many people in Japan, and for them to leave off all 3 of their most recent games, I mean, it makes me feel like we're not the minority. They don't like the way that they're going, and it doesn't seem like they're learning from it.
I mean, that might be true, but I also view, for example, like I just think that they're starting to develop into just different types of games. Like, for example, like Final Fantasy 15, I'm actually going to tell you that I enjoyed that game. Like, I did enjoy it, but I didn't feel like I was really playing a Final Fantasy game. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it's just a different game, and I feel like if they're going to make that kind of game, you shouldn't really call it Final Fantasy. It's like the only reason they call it that is because you're using like, potions and raga and the same types of spells, and you know what I mean? And like they can just call it that, but I just think it's just a different game. And it's the kind of game they're making, the kind of games now where it's like I will tell you, like Final Fantasy 15, I can't remember the story. I just remember that it was entertaining. It's almost like an action movie that you watch that you're just like, man, that was entertaining, but it didn't have a lot of like substance that really you could emotionally latch onto, like you remember. You know, like all those earlier Final Fantasy games, part of what makes them special is they have these stories and characters you really like, you remember them. You know what I mean? They stick in your mind. But I mean, try to tell me the story of Final Fantasy 15 or even of 13 or whatever. Maybe you can, but I can't, even though I played them. You know.
I hear you. I mean, James, you just put out the soundtrack for Final Fantasy 9, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show. Just listening to it just brings back so many memories
Yeah.
of the characters, the story, everything they went through. You could play the tracks for 13, 15. I wouldn't bring it back anything for me.
No, no.
I mean, I like some of the tracks,
Same.
especially in 13. I think
13's
that's
music
a
was
pretty good
decent.
song.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah.
It wouldn't tug at any heartstrings or bring back any memories or anything like that.
No.
Don't get me started on 13-2 or whatever. Too. That was the first game that was the first JRPG that I ever quit. Actually, in the middle, it was the first one.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even play it. So I mean, Jordan, you hit the nail on the head that it felt different. That's because Final Fantasy 15 was called versus 13. It was a different game. I mean, they developed it for 2 years under that guise, and then somebody was like, "No, we need to make this the next mainline game instead of." So they had the chance. They had the chance to branch off into this different path, which is, in a way, kind of what Origins is doing. Um, but
I'm surprised they didn't just call that a mainline game.
that's well, I guess because it reused all the characters from one, so they couldn't. But I just they had a real chance, and look at the popularity of 14, and that is a much while an MMO, it still has all the tropes of old Final Fantasy games in it. It came in at number 6. People obviously enjoy that type of experience with a vast story that's memorable. People rave about that game.
People love it. Yeah.
But it's a case where they had a chance to resave the series, and they're doubling down with everything that we've seen from 16, really.
Right. And, it's fine if you want to branch out into different types of stuff. Like, look at what the Pokemon series has done with their Let's Go games and then the Legends Arceus games.
Mm-hmm.
They're changing things. They're keeping their main series going as well.
Yep.
So it's fine to branch out, but, don't divert away from what made you so successful.
Or if you're gonna do that, just call the game something else. Like I feel like the only reason they call it that is just because, of course, it makes more money. Like if they call the game something else and describe what it is, then maybe they're like, oh, maybe people won't try it. You know what I mean? So they have to like label it and put some of the same items and stuff in it to call it Final Fantasy. But yeah, I just think they can make these games, but just call it something else.
And it's not like they haven't. I mean, Type Zero, Tactics, the Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, those games have been very popular. So they could have easily done that
Final
again.
Fantasy.
Yeah, so many different offshoots that have done quite well, and I just don't. It's only hurting their longtime gamers that just aren't going to put up with it anymore.
Yeah, and like I said, I always thought that maybe the problem was it's just purists like us. There's so few of us. I mean, other than podcasts like this, I don't really connect with a lot of people who feel the same way about most games that I do. So, because it's a single player experience.
Yeah.
Then to hear that they've pulled main audience, which is obviously going to be players in Japan. Yeah, I mean, if that kind of survey doesn't tell them something, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, I think also just sound like an old person now, but I just think a lot of people don't want to like. I'm gonna say this, like they just don't want to like read stuff anymore either. So I just think like a lot of the society stuff is just like shifting towards action based because it's even more sort of an instant gratification type of thing. I mean, I like action games too to some extent, but I just think a lot of people don't want to sit and like just read stuff anymore. I don't know. I think that's part of it.
You're probably right with that, and I enjoy a good narrative. You know, we talked about a little bit with the trails and how it goes from voice acting to you have to read, and it's kind of jarring, but we expect voice acting now. And
Yeah, I like to read stuff as long as I'm engaged in it.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm sounding really
Right.
old. I'm gonna have to get my cane or something.
That's okay.
If you write a good story, I'll read it.
Yeah, same.
I went out of my way to read as much NPC dialogue in the Trails games as I could because I was engaged in the world.
Yeah, I read through all those novels and everything too that were in the game.
Too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
You guys are extremes. Let me give one more point on Final Fantasy, and this is probably why we are in the minority. Guess the top 2 best-selling Final Fantasy games of all time.
That's the top 2 in terms of sales.
Yep, overall sales worldwide.
7.
7's number 1, 13 million.
My guess then would be 14 for the next one.
Very, very close, and probably will be eventually. That's
9.
number 3.
I mean, 6 couldn't be it, could it? I mean, because
No.
And
So unfortunately, 10's high. It's over 10 million, but unfortunately, sales speak and Final Fantasy 15 at nearly 11 million copies.
For really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now think about it. It was also released on Xbox and on PlayStation and PC, so that's probably got a little to do with it. But that's the only number that matters to Square Enix.
Yeah.
And it sold extremely well, and they're going to make another game in that vein.
Yeah.
That's so sad. I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Thanks for being such a drag, James.
Stupid numbers and facts. Oh man, yeah. Well, that's lighten the mood. Let's talk trails. So yeah, if I don't think we're going to get into too many spoilers, but we would like to at least give the opportunity to anyone that has not played most of them, all of them. Obviously, most of us have not played Cross Spell. Days are coming, so we'll kind of try to shy away from those a little bit, but. If you don't want to hear us ramble about trails and all the things, that is perfectly fine. But we're going to get into that to kind of wrap up the podcast. If you want to turn off, so who's the biggest trails fan here? I don't know, Jordan. You're pretty close, buddy, with your love of. You went to extensive lengths to play the Crossbell ones.
I did. Well, of course, I'm going to say I'm the biggest fan, and Jake's going to say he's the biggest one. So. Yeah, I mean, I did go to a lot of lengths. That's why I will avoid the cross-spell things. I mean, that unless at least anything that would spoil it for you guys, because I know you've both been waiting for a long time, and I don't want to spoil that when it's just coming up. So
that's cool, but like I said, a lot of it was addressed in Gold Steel 4. It kind of had to be, so.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's still certain things that I wouldn't want to, take away from you. So.
Okay, that's fair.
But I mean, Hajimari is. I just feel like I can't, because I've played the Crossbow games. I feel like that doesn't feel new for me, and I just cannot wait to see what happens. I want to see what's going on with the Grandmaster, and it's driving it. If I sit down and think about it, it literally drives me insane. I don't know. I just start getting more angry at Falcom.
And in Ice America, of course.
And then I know you said, James, that you don't think about it. You just try not to think about it. So
I don't want to sit here and drive myself crazy thinking about translation times, so I can't. Because me and Jake, you put that on Twitter the other day about playing Kuro in 2030. No.
Yeah. It's probably going to be 2030.
Even optimistically, 2025.
I mean, that actually seems not like an exaggeration.
That's realistic. Yeah. we could be talking about PS6. I don't know.
Oh my god.
Well, I think the one good thing is that, S Curl will be several years behind, but it sounds like it'll still be released for PlayStation 4.
Well, it's
you know,
it's a PS4 game. I mean,
Right, but like when it comes out here,
Yeah.
yeah.
PS4 will be long and dead, right? Oh, but to still get it on the same system as all the other games, I mean that's nice. So if Kuro no Kiseki 2 comes out and PlayStation 6 is really a thing,
It's
if it's
still
released on PS4 in Japan when the game originally comes out, at least we'll have access to it, hopefully,
hopefully.
on our current consoles.
Yeah, I mean that's still a PS4 game too. It's playable on 5, but those are PS4 games.
They are. I mean, I really am thinking about, as I could understand a lot of the audio Japanese, like I said, I'm thinking about importing all of those games. I mean, I know that like I don't know if Jake you would even go to this length, but somebody did make a spreadsheet overlay for Hajimari, and like apparently if you have PS4 remote, you have remote play, you can actually install the spreadsheet an app from the spreadsheet to overlay the English subtitles, like fan translation subtitles that are actually apparently really good onto the game. So you actually could import it and play it theoretically even with English subtitles if you're willing to go to that level.
I don't know how to do any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't play any kind of game on PC. I haven't even
Neither.
played Sky the Third.
Okay.
Remote play
So-
is purely just that though. You're not. It's an app. It's actually really cool. I mean, obviously it depends on your internet connection, both where you're at and at home. But
Yeah.
like I played Genshin remotely, and when the internet was good, it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean that I am concerned about like that not working, and I don't like Jake. I don't really play games on PC for the most part either, except for with the exception of cross-bell games, which I managed to figure out how like on Steam, I managed to connect my PS4 controller to it and then connect my PC laptop through my TV, so it was like I was playing it on the TV with my PS4 controllers. That's the only way
Gotcha.
I was able to really enjoy it. But if you don't want to do any of that stuff with Hajimari, like you could actually even just read the spreadsheet as you play it. It just would be really slow. You can read all the because it has it in order.
Back and forth.
It has all the order like of all the characters and what they're saying and everything. So you could if you wanted. But
If you hadn't played them before, but like I can't wait to hear those voices that we've loved for so long in a game. That's definitely a part of it.
It's gonna make it feel like I'm playing a different game, even if I understand what they're saying. It's gonna make it feel weird. Like for me, like when I played the crossbell games, it was all the Japanese voices, which I actually really liked.
Uh-huh.
And then when I went to play Cold Steel games that had those characters, it was weird for me. I was like, okay, that doesn't sound like Randy at all. You know what I mean? To me, that's like Tio. You know what I mean? Totally different. It's just weird.
Yeah, and they had pretty major roles, so it wasn't.
Yeah, it was weird for me.
I can see that. But I guess we've waited this long, so what's a little bit longer?
You know what a little bit longer is? Too long.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously hopes. Obviously, we know the time frame for Hajimari, but there could be hopes that by the time, because Kuro 2 is coming out this year in Japan, so
Oh my god. That's so
they can certainly speed the process up. They're not set in stone on the next ones. They could get going on this whole process.
If they've already contracted it to NIS America, I don't think there's any chance it speeds up.
Really?
I think the only way we get it sooner is if they outsource it to somebody else.
Well, I mean, Cloud of Leopard does a great job in Asia. Why why is it just hire some people, get going, get Geofront, put them on full time.
That's the evidence. I mean, like I played Geofront's version before, and I was thinking even before it happened, like why don't they just buy this and use it? Like why don't they just use this translation? It's awesome, and like I don't understand why this is not happening more to speed things up.
And then they do, and it still takes a year.
Yeah.
But it's still going through NIS America. That's the problem. Like I have no idea how any of this stuff works. So, don't quote me on any of this. But if it was Falcom who just would, you know, partner with the Geofront, get that translation, and then pump it out, I think it would be out much quicker. It's still going through NIS. So I don't know if they have some kind of contract with NIS where they have, they own the rights to publish everything in the West for the Trail series or just for Falcom in general, because I know East 8 and 9 were published by NIS America. So
That's true.
And
I mean,
Xanadu and everything else, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how any of that stuff works, but if something doesn't change by the time Kuro Kaseki starts its localization, if that's still on NIS America, we're going to be waiting a long time.
They really, I mean, there is like I've heard this translation like for Hajimari is really good that they made. It's actually on it's zerofield.net. That's where the translators are who made it, and it's supposed to be really good. I don't know why they just don't partner with these people. I mean, does it bother you as much as it bothers me, or you just also just try not to think about it?
Me?
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's terrible.
I mean, like the waiting even. I mean, does the waiting bother you? Like do you think about the story sometimes?
I hate it. I mean, you look how long it takes other companies to make games. Final Fantasy, how long has it been since the days when they would pump out games year after year? I mean, it's been 20 years for 7,
Since
8,
Super
9,
Nintendo.
right?
Yeah.
7, 8, 9 all came out within 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Falcom is pumping these games out just as quickly.
They are, yeah, they are.
Nobody makes games this fast anymore.
Yeah.
Falcom is doing it, and the localization just can't keep up.
It certainly seems something is broken on NIS America's platform, that they've got too much that they're doing with not enough staff, and we should have we should have Hajimari this year. They should have already released the Crossbell ones. Like, I understand they want to taper those out somehow, but they need to just put those out.
Hajimari should have been out a long time ago.
Oh, absolutely.
For what? At least 2 years?
I thought it was 2019.
Yeah.
2019
or 2020. It was one of the, I mean, it's been so long I can't remember, but it's been years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I was really hoping that they would move towards worldwide release. It doesn't seem like that's happening. And I get it. I mean, I know Falcom's a smaller studio, but I mean, they Cold Steel 3 was such a big hit in the West that it really pumped up the popularity of the series. I was really hoping that goodwill would propel localization forward for the series as it continued on, and it just doesn't seem like it has.
My only hope is that this is through, and there's the other game, other game that's come out after Hajimari.
Nayuta?
Yeah,
Nayuta?
so I'm hoping that's the end of the NIS contract, and somehow Kuro just comes out right there afterwards. Whoever it is that ends up doing it.
I thought that there was the shareholders meeting or whatever where Falcom said they are aware of this problem now, like they actually admitted it or acknowledged it. So I thought that maybe they are going to do something about it. I don't know if that's what that meant.
That would be my interpretation of it. That somebody looked at their time frame and said, "Whoa."
Yeah. And it wouldn't be such a big deal if it wasn't so. I mean, every single game is so connected to every other game release.
Yes.
I mean, you can't even look at box art without getting spoilers.
Yeah.
You see pictures. You see pictures of Kuro, and you see that Fee is in there.
Well,
that means that that means that Fee survives the Cold Steel arc.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't even look at box art or pictures or anything like that.
I haven't looked up anything, so I don't want to know anything that happens. I avoid everything for that stuff. Yeah.
So we can't spoil anything now for Jordan and everybody else too.
I mean, I hate to say it, but every time you put out a video with
Yep.
trailers for Kuro. I don't want to watch them.
I don't
Yeah.
watch
I
them.
don't
I don't
want to
watch
get
them.
spoiled on Hajimari.
I don't
I
blame
don't.
you.
I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't watch them.
It's tough. I mean, it's the line I've been walking for years now of
Yeah,
what to
you're
talk about and what I don't want to talk about.
you're taking the hit for all of us just by reading the articles alone.
Yeah, it's tough. Luckily, there's not much, so it's been.
Okay.
I mean, it's been completely silent for a while,
Okay.
other than 2 is coming and Kuro's out.
But I
But
mean, if they start putting pictures of Kuro 2 on Twitter,
Oh God.
it's
you'll
coming.
you'll see characters and you'll know, oh hey, that must mean they survived Kuro 1.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
No.
And I'm so
I think-
excited about that game. I'm much more excited about Kuro than I'm about Ajimari, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought, Jake, isn't it true that I thought the story of, I mean, I haven't looked up anything about Kudo at all, so this isn't a spoiler or anything, but I just thought that book the book in Trails of Cold Steel 4 that has the characters like 3 and 9.
3 and
you know,
9.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 and 9. Isn't that supposed to be something that happens in Kudo or something? You know, like the same way that what happens to was it Toval? Like, I think
If
in one
I'm
of
not mistaken, those characters that story plays out more in Hajimari.
that's Hajimari. Okay.
Now, I don't know. Now that doesn't mean that those characters don't continue into Kuro. I have no idea, but I think you'll see those characters, and I'm pretty sure I've seen pictures of them, or
Yeah.
like fan art of Hajimari and stuff like that. But I think that's where they're introduced.
Yeah, their characters are in there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because like, isn't it like what is that Red Moon Rose or whatever? That eventually kind of came to fruition. So I guess I was just wondering when.
Yeah,
these
Red Moon Rose. Isn't that the one that's about
Alphonse and
Emma's grandmother?
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just weird how those like they. So that means they've already. Like I guess we knew this, but it's like they've already planned out games in advance in the previous games. They've already planned these out because they're embedded in the previous games. In these novels.
yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Falcom does that for sure. I mean, that's part of what makes the lore in the series so great.
Do you think he
I don't
did
wanna-
that? Like he wrote the book like 20 years ago and it's still playing out?
Probably.
Maybe,
That's
yeah,
insane.
I wouldn't.
I
I wouldn't. Be
I wouldn't
surprised.
say every single detail,
Right, but like the
yeah,
overall.
they probably have known where the Cold Steel arc was going to end when they were working on Sky the Second.
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure some of that stuff is laid out, and they just do such a great job.
Yeah, well, I'm in just disbelief how they do that. Jake, I don't know if you've heard. I'm not trying to plug other podcasts or anything here, but I just noted there's a podcast that I discovered recently called the Kiseki Cast. Have you heard that before?
Oh yeah, I've listened to all those episodes.
Okay. I'm surprised you listened to it because there's a lot of crossbell stuff in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, when Cold Steel 4 came out, I looked up all the YouTube story spoilers I could find because I didn't want to be in the dark going into Cold Steel 4. I mean, there were things in Cold Steel 3 that I know definitely went over my head.
Yeah,
I hadn't looked any of that up. And then when Cold Steel 4 came out, I was just like, all right, I'm going to, Cold Steel 4 was announced. We got 8 months to wait. I'm going to go, I found a good YouTuber named Lady Virgilia who actually.
Lady Virgilia, she's really good. She's on that podcast, right? A lot.
She is, yeah. And, she had story spoilers for both Crossbell games. So I watched all those videos. There were a lot of them. I mean, it was many hours. But when you got 8 months to wait, you got time. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's why in Cold Steel, I think it was Cold Steel 3. I think it was when Yuna kind of like freaks out about that Campanella, you know what I mean? That like what they've done to the Crossbell. Like that hit me really hard, like emotionally, because of playing because of getting so attached to Crossbell and everything. I think if you like replay Cold Steel 3 after playing the Crossbell game, even that part, I think it'll hit you like in a different way, I think.
Yeah, it was emotional, but it would have been way more if you'd have cared.
I did replay Cold Steel 3 after watching the YouTube videos for Crossbell, and you are absolutely right. So I'm sure it'll even be much more impactful once I play through Crossbell itself.
Yeah, and no, I think that's absolutely true, and that's cool that you've listened to like the Kiseki Nut. He's on there too. He's pretty good, I
Yep.
think. So,
Yeah, he does a lot of good content for Trails too. Although again, I hate to have to say it, but there are some videos he puts out I just can't watch
Yeah.
because he's got reports on what's going on the JP timeline for Falcom series, and I mean, he does a good job with spoiler warnings too, just like this podcast. But yeah, there's some where I just have to turn it off and say, I, I, I don't want the spoilers.
You can't blame. I
I
mean,
don't like
that's his bread and butter. Like he's got to talk about it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
That's his deal. So he wouldn't have a lot of
I don't like,
content if it weren't spoiler ridden.
it's true. I don't look at, just like Jake. I don't look at any of it though. So
No, it stinks to have to be like that about stuff.
yeah, well, I really, it just sucks when you said 2025, and it's like, okay, that sounds like it actually is realistic, and that's just very sad. So,
That's probably realistic for Curl One.
yeah.
Yeah. Is that sad because we're old and we may not last that long?
Well, yeah, it's like, what am I gonna? I'm gonna be like 50, almost 50 when Francis. Like, really? Like, that seems crazy.
It is.
Maybe we can get Sky released on modern platforms, and when my daughter gets a little older, I can start having her play Sky and then just re-experience the story from the beginning while I wait for Kuro 2 to come out.
That
Yeah,
would be
As I
great.
get my cane and my walker.
I
I mean,
it's not been that long since I played Sky, but I'd play it in HD remake in a heartbeat again.
Oh, for sure.
yeah, that'd be fun.
We deserve that. I mean, there was expressed interest to bringing those out. It'd be a perfect game for the Switch. So I don't understand it.
And I think they will. I think you'll see at least Sky 1 and 2. I don't know about Sky the Third because like I said,
Who
that's
cares?
been released outside of PC.
Like
I would
Sky
love to
Third.
get a chance to play it on Switch. I think we'll see those now that they've moved forward with Crossbell. I mean, all the work for Sky is done. All they have to do is port it over.
Does Xseed still have those rights? Is that why we haven't? Maybe.
I don't know. I mean,
Wow.
they Xseed had the rights to Cold Steel 1 and 2, and they ported those over modern.
Yeah, but they
platform.
didn't put on the Switch.
No, but even if they were to put the Sky Arc on PlayStation, I mean, that would be fine.
Yeah, Xseed still has the publishing. Just, I believe so. But I mean, it's not like they're out of business. They could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I feel like I'm almost better off with this timeline, just even touching up my Japanese more than it is now, and then it would be fine. I probably could just import them in 2 years. It's probably what I'll do. Maybe I'll just like speed up my reading more than it is, and I'll just do that. I don't know. I can't wait anymore.
I don't. If I understand Hajimari, I don't think it's as long as the Cold Steel ones, so you might
Oh,
be
really?
okay. Yeah, I believe that's my understanding.
I think Hajimari is just kind of an epilogue for the
Yeah.
first half of the arc.
yeah.
And then it'll do like Sky the Third did, where it sprinkled in a little bit of foreshadowing for what's to come,
Yeah,
and then it'll kind of wrap up what
There-
the character storylines of what we already had.
I think they have the
Bonus.
equivalent of the Star Doors type of deal in it. From
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, once we get into Kuro, I don't expect to see most of these characters again unless they just pop up for a random segment here or there.
Yeah, I don't think Ring's
They made
popping
it-
up anytime. Yeah,
Right, they've made it pretty clear that this is the end, and unless for story reasons why it makes sense for a character to be over in Calvard, I'm not just going to force them into the plot.
no, it's going to be those characters that were
Right,
from
like,
there.
Yeah, like Fee, she's a bracer. It would make sense she travels the world. You got
Yeah.
Zin back.
Of course, Zin's back.
in
Yeah.
That
Sky
makes
Arc,
sense.
and- yeah, they're from Calvard, so
Killica.
Yeah, Killica and Walter. Yeah, we get to
Yeah.
see that story finally conclude.
I actually just want this kind of a survey here. Jake, how much do you actually like reading?
I like them. Yeah,
I like him, but I don't think I like him as some other main characters of other games. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Estelle. You know, she had a very likable personality. You know, you really could see her growth as the series went on. Um, so you know, her character arc was more story driven. Whereas there, you know, of course, there was some of that with Reen and you know finding out who his father really is and all of that stuff. But I think you know, since Estelle has a bit more like of a love story,
Hmm.
whereas Green is, you know, he's got the harem working for him, which you know, who wouldn't want that, right? But that really takes away from the character development that they could have done. I mean, you know, I personally wouldn't have chosen Elisa. James, I know you wouldn't have either.
Oh
No.
no,
I
nope.
think it would do more for the character's progression had there been a canon love interest. And had they chosen Elisa, obviously, then that would mean that you know her character arc would be more. There would be more meat to that as well.
Right.
I don't
I can
dislike
agree with
Green by
that.
any.
You said you don't dislike Reed.
Oh, not at all. No.
I don't dislike him, but there's times when I just feel like here and there when he grates on me a little bit. I find him like at times a little annoying, like more than other characters, but I still
Yeah.
like him. But I just like at times like I sent I don't know if you noticed this, but I sent James like a it's like a bar graph that somebody figured out the statistics of how many times Reed says haha in the games. And it just shows how much it like increases, you know, with each Cold Steel game, like how many times he says that. And I was like, yeah, he just at times this can get a little annoying.
Nice.
It was way too many. Yeah. I mean,
There's way too many.
I liked Reen quite a bit. Obviously, Estelle is a superior character in almost every way. I feel like Reen's unlikability wasn't really his fault as
Right.
much.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, he had a lot thrown on him in a lot of different ways. So, and we don't even know what happened in the North Wars. So there's,
Yeah.
uh, that dude had obviously the harem jokes aside, he had it pretty rough.
Still remember when he was in the I think he's on the train, like one of the trains in like the bathroom, you know, after his hair changes or whatever, and he's like, you remember this? He's like looking at himself, he's like, what am I like? What am I like a vampire now? Or something? Like, what am
Yeah, I think most people are ready to kind of move on from him.
Yeah,
I?
and that's what keeps the series fresh. I mean, you know, Estelle had her arc, Lloyd had his, Green had his, and now
Yeah.
we'll get to the new guy.
Yep.
You know, and hopefully he's, you know, I got, you know, like we said, I no idea what he's about because avoiding it at all costs. But
Yeah.
hopefully he's, you know, he's got the character depth and progression that we've liked that most of the series characters have had. So
I hope so too. And I think probably like you, Jake, I still feel like we still through all of these games just don't understand exactly what Ouroboros is really about. Like there's so much more I feel like to know about them. And that's one of the things that really drives me crazy in the waiting, you know, because that's going to be something from continuity, right?
yeah, I mean, I think overall that villain and you know, I use that term loosely because not all of them are villains and you don't exactly know what they're up to, but the villain group that you know ranges over the entire arc. I mean, just it makes the series so much better because there's always that thought of oh you know we haven't seen this guy in two games but you know he's really threatening. You never
Hmm.
know what he could
Yeah.
do if he pops up
Yeah.
here.
When
So
you know who's going to pop up, I bet. I bet based on the continuity, or what, at least in Hajimari, I don't know about Kuro, but Shirley and Cedric have to pop up. Because remember how that ended at the end. And Shirley, I don't know. I feel like once you both play the Crossbell games, like I don't know how you feel about Shirley now, but like go into it just like you hate her. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how you feel about her, but
yeah, I know she's got a big character arc in the Crossbell series, so it'll be fun to see where you know how she starts out.
That was
because you think we'll see them, right? Because her and Cedric just kind of like ran off. Remember, I like right?
right. I think what he was saying is like we couldn't appreciate how horrible she was because we didn't see what she did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys raised
Can't wait.
you raised an excellent point about the bad guys, and obviously there are Star Wars type parallels in terms of big stories. Like Ouroboros is like that constant threat, whereas we didn't know this until episode 9 of how those episodes was really the Palpatine story. In essence, the bad guy, he's the constant that ends up being what drives the story. In a lot of ways, that's reacting to what Ouroboros is either doing or trying to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the
And
grand,
I think
like,
that's the biggest frustration I have with the waiting is I mean, and this is just me personally, I tend to forget a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the story arcs take place when I'm out of that world. So, when Crossbell comes and I can really get back into it, I'm probably
yeah,
going to
yeah.
play the 2 Crossbell games. Then I'll replay Cold Steel's 1 through 4 before
Will?
Hajimari
Wow.
comes out.
Wow.
And well, I mean, I'll continue on the playthroughs of my old ones. So, my characters will be built up and everything. So I just want to go
I
through
see.
the story
All
again.
right. Okay, all right.
I'm not
That-
starting from scratch. No.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes a little more sense.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
but I want to get back into the world, back into the story, 'cause that's what I love about it.
I hadn't thought about that actually carrying over, like, because it doesn't speed it up for you a lot. Is that what happens because of that?
Yeah, I mean, so when I replayed Cold Steel 1 and 2, I got them on the PS4, I believe it was, and I was able to carry over my progress from the Vita games because of whatever it was that they implemented that allowed you to do that, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that cross save in the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, so I replayed it on hard mode, and I was still able to breeze through every chapter of the game until you got to the end where the enemy levels caught up with you. And, it didn't feel like it was challenging at all, which, if you want to replay just for the story, is a good thing.
No, that is good. Yeah, I actually never thought of that. So maybe that's what would not make me shut the door on replaying it. Then I guess I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
I can reiterate Jordan's earlier point, Jake. How do you have time for all these replays?
I mean, it'll be a lot harder now. I mean, it was much easier during the pandemic.
Oh yeah,
No.
yeah.
Really couldn't do anything else outside, and just being able to work from home obviously gets rid of any commuting. So that'll add an extra hour to your day depending on how far you go.
That's true.
And
Sorry.
so I did do my playthroughs of Cold Steel were during the pandemic, so that's where I was able to get a lot of that in.
Okay.
That was my first time playing those. Actually, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I really just kind of was playing them all back to back. I associate Cold Steel 2 actually with hurting my back because I did this like workout, like this one workout, and I hurt my back, and I remember just lying on the floor in the most uncomfortable like position, like because I couldn't get comfortable, but I was playing Cold Steel 2. That's the only thing that helped like distract me from how uncomfortable I was.
Yeah, and it's something I worry about when Crossbell comes out. Obviously I'll be starting those games from scratch, and they're going to take a long time, and I'm going to play them slow, just like I do every Cold Steel or Trails game. And it obviously time wise, my daughter's older now. I've got a different job where I'm commuting more, and there's not as much free time, so it's going to take me a lot longer to get through those games than it did to get through the Cold Steel arc. So it'll take me a while.
I hear you. I mean, it's like you get that hour. For me, I get that hour, maybe an hour chunk at night, maybe two if I'm lucky. But it's hard to play that, to get through it that fast when you only have those chunks a little bit.
Mhm.
And for a Trails game, just being able to sit down and sink an hour in doesn't get you very far.
You don't accomplish
No.
much. Sometimes you do just like a little bit walking around a town or something, and that's it.
You might get to the next town.
Maybe. Yeah.
Half a dungeon.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get to the save point before I fall asleep. This is good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in these new games. So, yeah.
I remember, James, I remember watching your playthrough of Cold Steel 4, and you got to the fight with Arian Road and General Osborne.
Oh Lord.
And I know you were like, oh yeah, we'll get through this boss fight and then we'll shut it down, and then that fight ends up taking forever. And then once you finally beat it, then there's another hour of cutscenes, and it's like,
oh my God, yeah,
1 hour a night.
No.
You can try for that, but there's a good chance that could turn into a lot longer.
I did get yes, yep.
I was saying that in no small part, that's one reason why I don't stream anymore.
Oh really?
Just you got to commit to it, and then you got to keep it on, and it just was not working out well at 1 a.m. when you got to be up at 7. Yeah.
Definitely not.
But I don't know. That's good stuff. Well, I know we're running a bit short on time. We've got some places to be. Is there anything else you fellas want to chat about before we wrap this up?
I don't have anything. I just really enjoyed actually getting to talk with multiple people about this stuff, and never really get to do that. So.
Yeah, same here. I mean, this was really fun. It was nice getting to actually have a fun conversation with multiple points of views, and I mean, like I said, these JRPGs are usually just a single player experience. So getting to bat the ball around with some other people who have played the same games that we grow up on and love and all that is a lot of fun. So I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah.
I don't see why not. It seems like it's a good idea. We'll do
Anytime, just let me know, and I'll be down for sure.
Right. Same. I got Jake. The moment I heard your Trails fandom, I was all in. So
maybe we'll have something. At least when Crossbell comes out, we can all experience that and talk about it a little bit in the future. Yeah. All right then. So who? Raise your hand. Who wants to say the phrase and get out of here?
Go ahead and take it, Jordan.
All right. But everybody, don't forget to get back out there and level up.